Welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we're going to be discussing City on a Hill Season 2, Episode number 2. If you've not hit the sub button or the bell, please do so. We're going to be doing these reviews every single week. And full spoilers ahead if you're watching this before it airs Sunday evening. We are going to spoil everything, so just, So I want to start with, it happens about a little further than midway through the episode, where DeCourcy and Jackie have a stare off in the hall. It's the greatest scene in the whole episode. And the episode's full of great scenes, but this scene, these two men are just giving up the dirt on each other, going back and forth. And DeCourcy has the greatest line at the end, but basically, Jackie's, digging into all of DeCourcy's personal life, past relationships, stuff that could affect his marriage. But he's like, look, I know that you murdered somebody. I know that you left this agent to die at the hospital. He's like, your shit will put you in jail. Mine's just, your character assassination.
And it wasn't even an agent. It was like a politician, a high-ranking politician, like
a U.S. District Attorney.
Yeah.
And all of these things, like he said, it's a character assassination. He might get in a brief fight with his wife about it because of shit that happened, 10 years ago. Whereas, like you said, he would go to prison forever.
Yeah, it was a great scene, and that one scene defines the series, in my opinion, like of what it is. These two men warring with each other and tearing the city and everyone else apart in the process. Jackie does so many things this episode yet again that's going to affect so many people. But that scene, did y'all feel as strongly that it was a standout?
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, absolutely. If you were unsure that this was the show, I think that scene kind of clarifies it, and also the preview for next episode at the end, which doesn't tell you much, but it's very much focused on the conflict between these two from the looks of it, it's clear that, it's a weird relationship for one, because it seems like DeCourcy may also, just pay attention to the show over these last two seasons. DeCourcy may be, while they do seem to be mortal enemies, DeCourcy may be the closest thing Jackie has to a friend.
That's a good point.
They established that a lot in season 1, where they hang out, but they both have separate agendas. But the way they go about things, Jackie just does it slightly more illegal than DeCourcy. Their end game is very similar. They just don't go about it the same way. So and their view on the city and on life in general is very similar. And throughout season 1, they weren't friends. They were more like work acquaintances that hung out a little bit. But, there was a lot of scenes in season 1 where they're having coffee and kind of talking about philosophy and, talking about different authors and law and everything. And now it's almost like they're testing each other. And I'm real curious as to how the test is going to end.
Well, yeah, and I think that it goes back to that speech at the end where, Jackie maybe even expected a little bit of this, especially given his own behavior. But, there was seemed to be actual emotion in his voice during the last scene in season 1 where he says, I would have protected you. I would have, I would have looked out for you. He actually wanted DeCourcy as an ally to some degree, that he likes Ward, but Jackie's so messed up that this would have fallen apart either way. And it looks like one of these men is going to destroy the other this season. And my money's on DeCourcy winning out this time for once. Just because of all the cards, at least as it stands now, given all the cards stacked against Jackie. And because at this point, if Jackie may get what he wants to some degree, but even if he does, his boss, I'm sure, she still wants to get rid of that old guard, and he still has nothing on her. So the minute her eye is turned away from DeCourcy and his department, it'll be back to getting rid of that old guard, because she wants her house to at least appear clean.
Well, and you talk about character development, who's really going to be the focal point come the end of this season and going into hopefully season 3. But, similar to The Wire, there's characters who you felt were safe, and then just all of a sudden they would die. And you're just like, oh, shit. And I feel like that could happen to either DeCourcy or Jackie. Like, I think that one of them could not make it past this season, just given all the things that's happened between them. DeCourcy's representing basically the city of Boston, and there's a lot of shady stuff going on. And now that they're turning the FBI against the cops, against, all these different people, I don't know that either one of them are safe.
Well, and I'll say this much too, like if DeCourcy gets what he wants, I could see, even though Jackie would get fired, and Jackie may get out of this without being, arrested or murdered. And if he's simply fired, to some degree, Jackie may be a bigger problem, because
oh yeah,
Jackie
Private detective Jackie.
Private detective Jackie, or drug lord Jackie. You'll get one or the other.
Both.
Exactly, or both, because Jackie loves to be comfortable.
I could see a scenario like that playing out. He leaves, and then he builds his own little thing on the side. And what could play into that, we'll see. The surprising thing about this season so far is the return of Jimmy and Kathy, and the way that story's playing out. Now, we saw last week Jimmy's tied into the drugs, which ties into the little girl that was killed at the end of last week's episode. But now that story has evolved, and Kathy, Frankie's wife, she's her business is failing. She had to move. Everything's falling apart in her life. So he comes to her and basically offers, help. And instead of just taking the $10,000 that he was going to offer her, she's like, "No, I'm going to work for it. Give me drugs to sell." And lots of bad decisions being made. But now that whole situation's going on, I mean, clearly those characters are going to be major players for the rest of the season, it appears, and they're directly tied to everything. Will Jackie has an in with Jimmy? Will this all come together in some way? Will Jackie get involved? I would assume so to some degree. I don't know how, but where do you think this particular story could be headed?
That's a good question. We're put in a scenario now where both of these people are tied into everything else. And they weren't around doing those things when the girl died and everything else, but you almost become accessories after the fact because they know what happened. They're involved now directly with the people who it happened with. And Jimmy, being the snake that he is, I think that he may take down both parents in that family. And it looks like Kick, the oldest daughter, she's having a hard time dealing with all this. She knows what's going on. I don't know if they're trying to build her up to basically be like she's the one looking after her siblings, and she basically becomes a parental role.
Well, she's following the street code. She's like, he's a rat, basically. Yeah. Why are we dealing with this asshole?
So I think that she may be the one that, in the end, is the one who takes out Jimmy.
I was thinking that too. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And at that, but before she has a chance to, I'm sure, Jimmy's going to do what Jimmy does, and like you said, he's probably gonna rat on the gang he's working with, but he's probably going to do it at a time when what was the Frankie? Is Frankie's older brother? What's his wife's name?
And Kathy is the
Kathy. Yeah, he's going to do it at a time when Kathy is going to them directly for their supply, and he's going to get Kathy implicated, and then she'll probably be the one to put Jimmy down, if anything. But either way, chances are Jimmy's going to rat out everybody and go scot-free again.
Yeah, he's either going to be dead or he's going to alienate everybody else because everyone else he just sent to jail. So I'm curious as to which direction it's going to end up.
Yeah, and tied to that, so Grace Campbell was introduced last week, and as sort of a community leader, and she's working directly with DeCourcy's wife, Siobhan, and we knew last week that her sons. We found out at the very end of the episode that her sons Kelvin and Anton are the drug lords of that particular area, and very feared, and they're heavily tied into the drug trade. They're the ones giving the drugs to Jimmy, but we weren't clear on whether or not she knew, how much she knew, or if she knew anything at all. Based on everything in this episode, it appears as if she knows nothing. She's completely oblivious to the actions of her sons. And matter of fact, there's a scene where she's, wanting them to join the military, and she's thinking about their future and everything. One of the sons is picked up by the police, Kelvin, the younger one, at the end of the episode. Now this is where shit's going to get crazy because DeCourcy is investigating this. He's trying to figure out who killed this little girl. But now his wife, who has political aspirations, she's working with this community leader, Grace Campbell. She needs her son helped, and she comes in as his lawyer to protect him. DeCourcy is going to be put in a very wild situation really quickly, and that's where I think the meat of the drama from not only Jackie but from his side is going to come. I feel really bad for Grace Campbell if she truly doesn't know what's going on. She's she puts herself in so many dangerous situations throughout this episode, literally trying to help, and it looks like everything's going to come crashing around her.
Well, I think that to me implicates her more in what's going on, just because it's not just about her being fearless. It's she's talking about her God, or her God. God put her son in a place where he's there to protect her. Because remember, one of the tenants or whatever came up and started yelling at her about the rent, and then he walks out and he was like, "Oh, I didn't realize you were her son." So for even that guy to know who her son was, as far as drugs or crime or whatever, for her not to know, to me seems unlikely. I don't know that she knows how bad.
Well, I'll say
I was thinking that the whole episode, but to me, the thing that sold me to her not knowing was the military brochures and sort of that sequence. Because I'm thinking, if she's thinking future and long term for these guys, and I don't think she knows. I mean, I could be wrong. There could be a twist, but as of this moment, I think she completely doesn't know.
There's a couple of pieces of very strong evidence that she doesn't know. I think the intro credit says it, that she's unaware, and also like she doesn't say that God put her son there to protect her. She said my God is protecting me, So I think she's just a very very religious woman who's like I'm protected by God, and I don't have to worry about anything. In that right, in the planning her son's futures and everything, and and if you view it from a place of not knowing, her character arc and everything she does makes sense if she just doesn't know. And I'm not saying that deep down she doesn't know. I'm just saying, it seems to me like perhaps she has an idea because the community knows, but she's in denial about it.
Yeah, well, that makes sense though too, because her being in denial. Because to me, for everyone who she basically works for, they all know. For her not to know seems.
But Jimmy knows. He knows, and is using it to his advantage because it's like because Jimmy gives that line where he's like, "Well, the guys I'm buying this stuff from, their mother is this high up community leader. The police will never investigate them."
Yes. And that's the thing. So for everyone to know outside of her, but like you said, Larry, she could have an idea, but be ignoring it and just be in denial, be like, no, that's not what's going on. And the military thing could also be her trying to right the ship. She knows that the youngest one may be following in the older one's footsteps, trying to get them back on the, straight and narrow path to, straighten up. And I think that is she wanted them to have structure.
Yeah.
Wants them to be in the military and live that kind of life. But
Well, yeah, and that's very much, that's a very like in I really, I think I empathize with this character a lot because, as I mentioned before, she kind of reminds me of my own mother to a degree with that, like not that we were ever in that much trouble, but just, the way she sort of planning their future. She sees like, oh, you're not really doing anything right now. Like you guys are of that age where you should start going into careers and things. I'm going to start pushing some ideas towards you. Join the military. Maybe do this. Maybe do that. Leaving little pamphlets and things. Like, because my mother would definitely do that for us or ask us what our plans are, and also she seems like, and also like my mother was that kind of religious where she would be like, God has me, I'm good. So I could definitely see her having that perspective. It just seems like it seemed like very real and relatable character traits to me.
Now, here's the big question: if she truly doesn't know, and she finds out, what does she do?
Well,
does she use her power to protect her sons, or what do you guys think?
I think that's a good storyline. I think that's we talk about Shaban and DeCourcy's drama throughout this series because it's getting ready to get real real crazy here real quick. But I think that her finding out what her sons are really doing, that to me adds a whole nother aspect of drama to the series because, like you said, what is she going to do? I think that she would protect them, just like she convinced the person at the bank to give that person a loan, and it seemed like she did it through influence. Like she was so powerful and she was worth so much that bank didn't want to lose her, so they basically folded and let her have what she wanted, even though it was for someone else. The amount of influence and power she has, I think that if it's her kids, I think that she's going to wield that power to help protect them.
Didn't she say she had 800 tenants?
Yes.
I mean, holy shit!
Right.
that is, yeah. That's
and that makes her sons seem like the shittiest people on earth because it's like your mother has that much power and money, and you're dealing drugs for what? For fun? It seems like maybe
it's recreational.
Yeah, it's a recreational thing for you.
But
you're a recreational gangster.
They want to shoot at people and deal drugs because for fun.
Like, because you're rich kids with nothing money. Better to do. It's yeah, exactly. Because she's clearly got resources and means, and if they needed something, they're not in a place where they wouldn't have it, so they're doing this for fun.
Yeah, because her sons, particularly, you're right. They, with her, they probably,
resources.
Yeah, they have resources. So, I'm curious as to what got them in, and what got them into this, and what that. Hopefully, we'll get that storyline. What's the root of them getting involved in this drug? Where are they getting the supply? I mean, this is a lot of stuff, and it's, they're using it's heroin. It's a large amount. So I think I'm curious to that storyline as well.
But yeah, I did want to touch on your other question though, with just given what she would do, because I'm like just a woman like that, I could see her just kind of having a breakdown, and I think her first response would be like Spencer said, to protect them and to try to get them out of town and away from danger. Not realizing to some degree they are the danger and they are the trouble. She would still just kind of view those as her kids.
Yeah, I and I think we're going to find out this season. We had an interesting storyline, two storylines that were very similar, in that being intimacy issues with wives. Both DeCourcy and Jackie had situations with their wives this week that involved intimacy. That's the best way to say it. Jackie's wife's feeling lonely. They're in bed. She feels that disconnection. She goes and she decides she's going to take things into her own hands, literally. So there's that, and then him pressuring her. Well, who were you thinking about? And she's like, finally you. And then we have the situation with DeCourcy where, his wife, she wants to have a child, but there's some medical issues. Not only medical issues we find by the end of the episode, it seems there's more than just medical issues because DeCourcy is obsessed and involved with his work, so much so that he's putting off a romantic evening. And so clearly there's more to it than just that. So it's interesting that both characters have this situation going on. I noticed that in terms of the way the story was playing out. Any thoughts on either storyline and how that'll affect the remainder of the season?
Well, I think DeCourcy, like, his situation is a little different than Jackie's because if he knew about his wife's possible medical issues, or possible actual concerns, like that they would try a little harder to conceive, if anything, but he's unaware. He's still in the dark about it, and even her doctor said that you need to get DeCourcy on board with this, but Siobhan hasn't told him anything yet.
Well, I think too with their storyline, DeCourcy doesn't feel he can put time in to a child. He's, my dad was absentee. He wasn't around. He, didn't devote any time to him. And he's like, I want to be able to devote my time to my child. So it's almost, he's making a choice not to, because he feels like right now with, her working on all the coalition stuff, him tied up in this case, that they don't have the time to give a child. And the way he explains it made me feel a bit of, I felt for him. I was like, he's trying to do the right thing, but Siobhan isn't telling him everything either. So when she's getting mad, getting frustrated with him, if she was just honest with him, be like, hey, look, I have a limited amount of time left, not on this earth, but I'm having these medical issues. I really want to have a child, and now might be the only time I get to. And that may, convince him to be on board too, but she's not being fully honest with him, and he just doesn't know. And not that would make him change his mind, because his reasoning behind it is way more, I felt like it was thought out. Whereas Jackie is just clueless. Like, he just doesn't know what's going on. And she, his wife is just feels isolated. She's not working right now. She just feels isolated. Although the callback with the priest, she runs into him again. And I think that might be some foreshadowing.
Yeah. Jackie's gonna, I'm sure, lose it when he sees that guy again. It's the thing, because it seems like she's gonna be working at the church. Given the whole singing plot line, potentially in the choir, and he's gonna notice. It's due to Father what's his name's involvement. And the type of guy Jackie is, he's gonna be like, well, what interest do you have in my wife? Why are you so interested in my wife's life? So Jackie is definitely gonna mess with that guy. He might ruin him, but that may be harder to do than Jackie thinks, because, given what the priest has mentioned in Ireland, and I believe he was talking about some IRA stuff, right? About when he was talking about his past last season. Then again, we never, I know.
I was just gonna say, he might have some ties that we don't 100% know about. That would be an interesting little plot twist if
he's hiding in the States.
Well, yeah,
as or a priest,
the IRA becomes like maybe a cliffhanger on this season and going into season 3. Like, that's the next.
Is Boston?
Yeah,
that would definitely fit story wise.
Well, yeah, and because remember, he had that whole when he was trying to get Jackie's wife to talk about what was wrong with her. She was like, "Oh, you're a priest, you wouldn't understand. I can't talk about my feelings." And he mentions the part of Ireland he's from, and he's like, over there, he's like, me talking about my feelings can get me killed. So he's like, so I understand, And so I'm like, okay, that's a line he dropped very casually. I feel like there's a lot of little things in this show like that are, going to come into play later to some degree. But if it's not that, it may be something along the lines of the fact that Jackie might wind up trying to intimidate and rough up this priest again that gets him in trouble at work. Because I'm pretty sure that doesn't look good for his agency at all.
No. The other Ginny story was, it's one I don't really care about. I felt it was resolved last season, but we're going back into the stuff with her mom. She got her to come speak to her, because she claimed she was dying, but she just needed a hip replacement. There was some great dialogue, and the whole, well, when she goes, she'll hit the down button. Like that was a laugh out loud moment. I was like, damn. I'm assuming we're going to keep revisiting the mother stuff. How do you feel about that? I hope it's resolved to some degree, or she doesn't pop up for several episodes. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think more she was a plot point to bring the priest in than she was a focal point.
I hope so.
Or there, because that to me is there was no other reason for the priest to come back in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were doing, is to bring his storyline back in, because with everything that happened between Jackie and him, I didn't feel like he was ever going to push that button. But now, him running into Jenny again, like, it feels as though this is a possibility now, as opposed to before. I didn't have any inkling of him ever showing back up. But now I feel as though this may be how they brought him back into the fold.
Yeah, I feel like, the writers, just felt that maybe they dropped that plot line a little too early last season, that they could have done more with it. And also, the thing with her mother is too, like, she may play, sort of a pivotal role. She may actually be about to sue them, which, maybe the mother's not the best character, but, you do get more of Jackie being Jackie and trying to navigate these situations with that. It's like, we'd like to get to see, like, how he gets around that, or what he does to get her to drop it, because it is her house. And, that is an interesting fact that, like, as a viewer, I don't really think about it. It's like, oh yeah, that's not even legitimately their place. And in all likelihood, if she does die, out of spite, she'd leave their house to someone else. So it's like, Jackie's got to resolve that to some degree, just to sort of keep his livelihood.
Well, yeah, that's what he calls his home. And if the court decides that it's not their home, that doesn't look good either.
The last thing I want to say regarding Jackie is, we talked about it earlier, but I want to dig slightly more into it. The fact that he's digging into DeCourcy's college years. He's digging into past relationships. He's trying to turn over rocks and pull out dirt on him. And I mean, it's such a slime ball move. Yet it is interesting seeing Jackie's tactics and how he operates and how he works, and the fact that he's this FBI guy. And he's supposed to be, out there, fighting the good fight. And yet he spends 90% of this episode just trying to find shit on DeCourcy, using his skills. He does have skills and, abilities to, dig in and figure things out. But it is funny that his whole story this episode is just that. Do you think there's going to be any more, with that? Or, did you pick up on anything that maybe I missed regarding some of the rocks he was trying to overturn?
I thought it was a great plot point, because to me it strengthened my appreciation for DeCourcy's character. He he uncovered that this girl he was with in college had an abortion. It was about the same time that he was with Siobhan, but come to find out, like, he didn't know anything about it. And I don't remember the current politician's name, who's trying to get Siobhan to run.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
But him standing up to Jackie, that whole sequence was great. Like, that was one of my favorite dialogues in the entire episode, was them going back and forth. But that whole sequence, to me, like I said, strengthened DeCourcy's character and made me appreciate him even more. To me, it showed the kind of person he was.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at first to me, it seemed like, it seemed to me like, okay, Jackie's trying to set up DeCourcy to take a fall for things. And yeah, that still very much seems like the case. But what I missed until Jackie had his conversation with DeCourcy is the fact that, like, it's not just that he's trying to set him up. The bigger thing is that Jackie is desperate because DeCourcy is so squeaky clean, and he's basically, he's got him with a smoking gun. He has so much evidence on him right now, that he wants something as leverage against DeCourcy, and he's got nothing.
That's a great point. The fact that Jackie's used to, working with dirt balls and finding dirt easy, and he's digging as deep as he can on DeCourcy, and it's clean. Now, if Jackie, one angle he could have, and we'll see how it plays out, if Jackie discovers truly that Kelvin and Anton are the criminals, and yet DeCourcy's having to protect them, we'll see how that plays out. Maybe Jackie will use that to his advantage. But DeCourcy is clean. You're right.
And that may be the one saving grace that he has, because that Jackie has, is that he may discover that, because I feel like Jackie's kind of building a coalition against himself. He's, running through all these people that hate him, or, that newly hate him now that they've met him. And DeCourcy finding out that, hey, DeCourcy is, the near spotless great guy that you thought he is. And all these people you talk to kind of like him. And even his boss is kind of starting to like him a little bit. So, I feel like it's going to blow up in his face a little bit.
I did, until, thinking about it more. Siobhan now is Grace's lawyer. She's, working with this coalition. So if he doesn't recuse himself from this case, and he's basically going up against his wife, that's going to be ammunition for Jackie, because it's going to look suspicious. So if he doesn't, even if he was to lose, and it was legitimately lose, no matter how much he tried, it's still going to look suspicious at this point, because for that case to go to trial, and then everything to happen, and then DeCourcy lose, it looks like he would be giving his wife the case.
Well, this might be where Jimmy comes in.
Well,
for Jackie.
Yeah, true. Jimmy gets to do his whole slime ball thing. And but I think Ward, because we all know, like you've mentioned before, Brian, Ward is Ned Stark. So I think, from the beginning, like him and his wife haven't had the discussion yet, but I think he plans to recuse himself. And the real plot line's going to be him having this argument about it with Siobhan, where, she's expecting him to play it in her favor, but he's like, no, it wouldn't be the right thing to do. I'm gonna recuse myself from this one.
What I'm thinking is you make the Ned Stark comparison. I think that he's going to choose his job and doing the right thing over his own wife, because their relationship has seemed very not great since the jump. And I think that this is one of those things that they kind of set it up with the intimacy problem, them not being on the same page with kids. Like, there's a lot of other things that don't even have anything to do with this case that are coming between them. I think that this is going to be the final straw, and they're going to end up not being together.
I agree. Oh, my bad. Didn't mean to cut you off, but I was...
No, you're good. I was done.
I was just saying, I agree with that. Like, in fact, I think that's the whole reason, other than the show, I think it ties into two things. What we saw with Jackie looking into his old girlfriends and everything, and finding one that he was very close to, because they didn't even have to show that person. That scene could have very easily been done, with Jackie doing a little research or talking to someone else. But you brought in this whole character, and it seemed to be a very focused moment that said to me, like, okay, this isn't the last time we see this character. She's going to be involved in some capacity.
Sierra Mills.
Yeah.
They named her. They built an office set.
I
was thinking that too.
I was like, occupation and everything.
It's like you spent a lot of time to just this character not to appear again. Yeah.
They talked about her dad. Like, there's a lot going on there. So I have a feeling, this is gonna pop back up. Well, she's gonna pop back up, and she's gonna be a regular on the show to some degree.
Yeah, wrote her name down.
Spent way too much time establishing it for them to just be done after this episode.
But yeah, another fantastic episode. A lot of great plot lines. I just love how how everything weaves in, to itself. It's really great hour of television. Y'all have anything else y'all want to say before we wrap this up?
I do not.
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
All right, so we appreciate everyone listening. There's going to be, right after we go off, there'll be a pause, and there'll be about 3 minutes of us just shooting the shit about coffee. we said it at the beginning. I'm going to cut it and move it to the end. So if you want to listen, enjoy our thoughts on coffee. All right. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Check out that coffee chat. There's a mention of the best SNL sketch, or at least one of them in recent history.
Got this good new coffee.
What brand?
It's Starbucks, but have you seen the little cups, the little shots? You pour it in a glass, you fill it with ice and water, and then you got a cold brew.
Oh, isn't that like condensed espresso? Or
That's basically what it is. That's almost exactly what it is. It's super condensed, but you put it in a cup or pitcher.
Well, you won't be putting this part in the episode. I'll say that much, because I'm about to tell you, like, I can't do that, because that like fucks my stomach up like nobody's business.
I just don't like it. I tried that nitro cold brew the other day. Me and Megan went to Lowe's yesterday to get a bunch of shit for outside, and she wanted to stop by Starbucks. And I always get the same thing, but I was like, let me try something different. I was like, nope, not for me. I don't like it.
Love it.
Was it the nitro, or was it the cold brew itself?
No, I don't know. Probably both.
Like, because it could just be the nitro, because the nitro gives it a completely different flavor. So you may not like that, and it's
most of Starbucks coffees that aren't flavored taste like burnt dirt.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. Oh, that's what these are, store bought. I buy the case of them, and I have a giant glass. I put ice and water and just put the shot in there and mix it up.
Well, yeah, they taste like that because they're burning the fuck out of your coffee beans.
That's exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't give a shit.
Right?
That's how is it that Dunkin' has better coffee? Like that should be
significantly better.
Like 1,000,000 times better.
Right?
It's insulting. Like Starbucks.
McDonald's does the McCafe coffee.
I haven't had it in a long time.
Isn't it funny that the one thing you got to do to make coffee half decent is not fucking burn it?
That's it. Starbucks doesn't figure that out.
Because remember, that's what I used to have here. There's like 7 different McCafe flavors, and
oh yeah.
It's good, but it's literally burnt dirt.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. I might put this at the end. Coffee talk. Welcome to
Talk.
Coffee Talk with Jimmy.
He would coffee talk with Jimmy. It wasn't our Starbucks that burnt your coffee. It was someone else. That was Dunkin's. I swear it was Dunkin's.
Well, he ate Dunkin's. Remember, he had that Dunkin' last week.
That was one of the best. That was one of the best SNL skits. Remember, like what was it?
That's
the coffee
dude,
sketch.
That is one of the greatest ever. Yeah.
Coffee talk.
Smoke outside. He's like, I am outside. I put my friend in the movie. All right.